Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Pitafi. Once again we are going to talk about the thing that has monopolized the imagination of the people of the country, at least the media of the country, that is Maulana Fazlur Rahman's sit-in. And that continues despite many difficulties that we have witnessed. Yesterday and today there was rain. Maulana usually returns back to his home, unlike the previous sit-ins where the leader of the pack would sit there and endure along with the people who are sitting outside. But that doesn't happen here. The Prime Minister of Pakistan took cognizance of the matter and instructed CDA to go and help the protesters who are sitting out in cold and in the extreme weather. We saw that there was some kind of movement in that context as well. But apart from that, from Maulana's speeches, you don't know whether he's going to just pack up the bags in the next hour and go back home, or he is going to further move ahead and start some kind of confrontation. We are going to talk about what might be the future plan. Secondly, what exactly is the government planning to do about this? Third, the possibility of any deal between the protesters and the rulers of the country. And finally, which is very important, what are the purposes, or what does Maulana seek to gain? Because we have been asking this question for quite some time, but sadly it seems that since Maulana has used maximalist positions, we don't know what exactly is his main focus or goal to achieve. We are going to talk about these matters and more. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Ghazi Ahamed Akbar Saab, leader of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the ruling party. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Zafar Sheikh Saab, a senior journalist and analyst. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. We are awaiting a third guest. The moment they arrive, I'm going to introduce him as well. Ghazi Akbar Saab, let me ask you, how do you see things shaping up in coming days?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you, Farooq bhai, for calling me here. As of what I have made out of Maulana Saab's speech today, I think he is clear on the fact that he is going to sit at least till 12 Rabiul Awwal, which is expected on the coming Sunday.
Right.
And they're going to convert this dharna into the 12 Rabiul Awwal celebrations. Looking at the weather conditions, yes, it is a very tough call. But as far as the government is concerned, the good thing is that the Prime Minister has taken a keen interest himself, and he has asked the CDA chairman to go and visit the site. The DC Islamabad was there, and he was ensuring that the water is pumped out of the sites. The medical camps are set there. The ambulances are made available. And in certain cases, I've heard that some food is also being supplied there. So we don't know what the end will be, because for now there's a deadlock between the Maulana's camp and the government's negotiators.
Negotiating.
Yeah, but there's a deadlock. But Farooq bhai, I strongly believe that the continuation of the dialogue, the process itself, is very crucial at this stage. It's important for the country. It's important to get out of this quagmire. Notwithstanding what Maulana Saab is going to achieve out of it. Notwithstanding that what illegitimate demands he has come here with. But the important fact is that there are a few thousand Pakistanis who are sitting on the roads when their leader sleeps in the luxury of an Embassy Road house, and he just comes there for a couple of hours, gives a speech, a sermon, whatever you call it,
and then he goes back. Right.
Unlike what we witnessed in 2014, when the current Prime Minister Imran Khan Sahab would sit there, was even sleeping there, was in the container for months and months.
And then whenever he would leave, his audience would leave and they would come back.
Yes.
And that was convenient for everyone.
That itself would give a lot of motivation. This morning when it was raining, I was going to my constituency, and I saw at least 10 to 15 vehicles which were bearing the JUIF flags, and people were going back.
Right.
So probably the last night rain, has brought down the morale.
Or at least the number. Let me bring in Zafar Sheikh Saab. Zafar Sheikh Saab, your take on shape of things to come. It is important, but then I have to ask you about the motives, because we still don't know what exactly does Maulana seek to achieve.
Thank you, Farooq. First of all, I would like to comment on the speech of Maulana, especially today, just 1 hour before, and I was live listening to that. There were so many contradictions as well, and the body language and the way he was talking with his dedicated workers, that tells altogether different story.
Okay.
I think, as I said earlier, if you remember in my previous program with you, that whatever Maulana could have achieved, he has already done it.
Okay.
Now, his speech, this is once again my impression that he is in the process of consolidating his achievements.
That shock and awe, that splash and bang has been achieved already.
Exactly.
And now he doesn't know what he's doing, that's why he's improvising?
I think so, yes. And at the same time, he's pumping up his own workers as well.
Okay.
Because the workers are in a very difficult position.
Okay.
The rain is there. The area where they are sitting is not good for long night stays and several weeks stay.
Yeah, and
They
the
are
weather is
already
going
here.
to be harsher in coming days.
No doubt, yes, definitely. But I would also like to remind that the workers are dedicated.
Okay.
Even if they go away, I mean, here and there for one night or few hours, they'll come back on one call.
Okay.
It's not a problem.
One
because they are very
question though,
organized.
Since you're talking about the workers and their dedication, I'm sure JUIF has also supporters in Islamabad. Where are they? Because we don't see any person coming out of the city to join the protest.
Not very much local. I think they are negligible or maybe not at all.
Why?
Most of the participants of the rally or the sit-in are outsiders, and especially in Balochistan area, in Sindh area, in even KPK, there are not much number of JUI workers.
Right.
We can feel that
They are
because
from
I spend a lot of
Balochistan-
time there.
They are from Balochistan and Sindh?
Sindh, mostly.
Okay.
And one more thing I would like to say, but they are very much dedicated.
Okay.
They are organized, and they believe from their inner side whatever his leader is saying.
Right. That is important, and we are going to actually dissect that and understand what exactly that might be. But Qazi Saab, my question to you, do we have any clarity on what does Maulana actually want? Because he is demanding that the Prime Minister resign and then there should be new elections, and certain murkier demands like army should not be involved in the electoral process, despite the fact that he was part of the alliance that passed the bill that included army's role in it. So what exactly are his actual demands?
See, from the day one, I have been saying that it's a focusless, aimless,
Okay.
and a targetless dharna. You know, it started off with a long march, and Maulana Saab had a very huge expectation. He was expecting probably people would come out in millions. You know, as of today, if you, even on Friday, the largest crowd that they were able to gather was last Friday. So if you, I visited myself that Friday, and I sincerely tell you that it was basically a purely Maulana following crowd over there.
Okay.
There was no other people coming from any other walks of life. There weren't any lawyers. There weren't any people from civil society. You know, whatever you witnessed in our dharnas in 2014, when people from all walks of life would come there and listen to Imran Khan, listen to his vision, and you know,
And then you
they
had
were out in that movement.
And then you had a sideshow as well. Qadri Saab was also
Yeah,
sitting there.
Then Qadri
so
Saab,
one by one, both would
yes,
speak.
one by one. But then Qadri Saab, I can actually, you know, sort of create an analogy between Qadri Saab's crowd and Maulana Saab's crowd.
Okay.
They basically both were followers, and they were not the political workers, actually, what we must say. But the PTI's dharna had a different, you know, the whole fabric was different as far as that was concerned. But as of what I see today is that Maulana Saab's numbers are thinning out on a very large scale.
Okay.
You know, if there were about 40-50,000 people last Friday, I don't see more than 10-15,000 people by now. So that means, and when you say that there aren't people locally, yes, as per my information, there's about a student strength of 32,000 plus seminaries.
belonging to JUIF.
Belonging to JUIF around Islamabad, Pindi, and you know, this sector.
Okay.
But and we cannot say that people haven't come out from those madrasas.
They
They
have.
are there.
Okay.
They are there. And basically, what I have come to know is that they come and then they go back at night
Okay.
to sleep in their,
Now, the
thing.
kind of numbers you're giving, even if the crowd is thinning, does it not concern you that if they don't have any clarity of purpose, they might end up doing something violent? And to do something violent, you don't need hundreds of thousands of people. Few thousand can do whatever they want.
I totally agree with you, but at the same time, I believe that to go for something violent or to go for something that is against the, the agreement that has been done between the administration and the JUIF, if they have to decide anything out of that, then they need to have numbers. Well, with a sheer number of maybe 10,000 to 15,000, the police is almost more than 25,000 in Islamabad, not including the agencies that are there also.
Right.
So you cannot match the numbers actually.
Right.
You know.
But
So,
to create the kind of visuals that might be needed to proclaim victimhood, this is the number that they might need.
and then
Not
coming,
more than that,
sorry
right?
for that, coming to the point that you said that the targets that they are carrying, asking for the Prime Minister's resignation
Yeah.
and asking for the re-elections. And then, these two are the demands that almost are the same. If you're asking for the PM's resignation, it means you're asking for the re-elections. So if PTI is not agreeing, if the government is not agreeing on one demand, it means that the one goes itself.
No, technically
So-
both are not the same. If Prime Minister were to resign, there would be elections within the Parliament, right?
At
a
least
new
as far
person
as
will-
government and PTI are concerned, that is
won't
not an
happen.
option for us. That is not
we
an
know.
option for us.
We know that won't happen, but Zafar Sheikh Sahab, very interesting aspects. One, the agreement between the local administration and JUIF. Last time, we have seen 3 dharnas or 4 dharnas actually. Qadri Sahab's PAT actually came twice, and then PTI also, and finally TLP. They all, at that start, we were told that there were agreements. But
They were violated. All were violated.
Whether they were violated or they moved or they were not set in stone. What has changed this time? That Maulana is holding his end of the bargain, and the administration seems to be facilitating him as well.
So I think as far as agreement is concerned, until this moment, they have largely, followed
Abided by it.
and abided by that agreement, except one thing. That was that this making dharna and sit-in on the Kashmir highway, it was not part of that. It was adjacent to the
A space was given,
empty
right?
area that was allocated to them, but they little bit violated, and from that place to shifted to a main road, and which is a main artery of Islamabad, and because of that, the Islamabad is facing a lot of problem. Not only the transport problem, the overall life is being
Right.
disturbed, if not suspended.
Kashmir Highway is an important artery that carries people, connects various parts of the city. But despite that, the kind of trouble that could have been caused has been averted so far, because there was an agreement. So why such a difference this time? Who was negotiating from the other side? That this time the negotiation is holding, that the agreement is holding.
Sir, I think since this agreement was the General Secretary of JUI Islamabad,
Okay.
and they are not alien here, they are the one who are holding, as Kaisab said, 32,000 seminaries and mosques, and they are organizing those mosques.
Not
Students are
32,000
there.
mosques. Students.
Students,
yeah.
Yes, and they are there, and if they wanted to continue without any problem in the future, they have to abide by the agreement. That's why it was a wise decision to make agreement not with Maulana or some other senior leader who doesn't belong to the city. They made the agreement with the locals.
No,
So local have
actually,
to abide by the agreement.
Actually, let me tell you
I have
that
a
I
reason
was
for that.
pretty impressed with the chief, commissioner of Islamabad,
So he's
who
a
might
very-
have actually done it.
He is a very, articulated personality, and he is himself personally going and taking interest in all these things. One thing is lacking,
Ghazi
sir.
Sahab wants to add something here, right?
What I believe is that, talking of 2014 dharnas, a dharna before that by Qadri Saab, then the one at Faizabad sit-in
Along
by
with you,
Tariq
yeah.
al-Labbaik.
Yeah.
I think we have been through a political evolution process, you know. The leadership has learned a lot out of it. The political administration has learned a lot about it from all these dharnas. So basically this evolution has helped us to understand that I don't remember if we ever had an agreement with the administration of Islamabad. Maybe I'm forgetting, but it's...
No, it was reported.
Okay, but it was there. But then if we, you know, somehow didn't abide by it, but then everyone has learned from all these experiences.
Yeah.
So, and so now one thing is very
In
clear.
terms of agreements, that might be the case, but when it comes to preparedness, it might not be. I'll tell you why. God forbid if JUIF were to decide that they are going to move to a D-chalk, right? How are you going to stop them? I mean, containers stop me. They stopped him.
It's difficult
right?
to stop them. It's
Yeah.
difficult to stop them.
So,
You're right.
so what are the equipments, what are the techniques to use? Because every time that happens, the administration finds itself clueless.
Yeah, but this time the police and the anti-riot forces have been training for the past 1 month since Maulana Sahab decided to go for the long march. And then again, you know, the police has also learned from all those experiences.
but
so
do
now
we
they
have
have,
small-
they have the equipment ready.
Like what?
You know, it's mostly the tear gases and the water cannons. That's the
They
basic.
have water cannons now?
Yes.
Because
they're
I've been
prepared.
asking this question for 7 years.
I have seen them myself, you know,
Okay.
because
This
they have
time,
to be
if
prepared
they have
on
come,
that.
it must
Yes,
be a
yes.
miracle.
Yes, yes, they are there. They are there.
Okay.
One thing, Farooq, I would like to mention that Prime Minister himself promised that whenever the dharna will come and he will facilitate with them with containers and food, these
but-
two things.
No, but I understand that. My concern is that he's Prime Minister. He can say whatever he wants to and he will do it. And there is an opposition as well which is protesting. But I am a common man, right?
Yeah.
I have to travel. If you start facilitating them and in the end my ways are stopped or my life is disrupted, that becomes a problem, right?
Yes, the whole city, not only Islamabad. Pindi, this time Pindi is much affected than Islamabad.
Right.
Because just today in the evening, my kids were out and they stuck on the road for more than 2 hours.
Yeah, my daughters were late.
I was in I-10 and I had to travel to F-10. It took me about 1 hour and 10 minutes to reach there.
Right, right. So that is a difficult part as well. Let me welcome the third guest who has just joined us, Justice Retired Shakhawat Sahab. Thank you very much for joining us. Our legal expert of renown is going to contribute to the debate. Shakhawat Sahab, let me ask you about Maulana Fazlur Rahman's sit-in. His demands continue to be the same. He is demanding that the Prime Minister should resign and then there should be fresh elections and the army should not be facilitating the election process. Now tell me, what is the legality of all these demands?
So far as the right of association or right of assembly is concerned, that is the fundamental right of every citizen and every political party. But such like demands, like if a group of people or some political party, they gather in the capital with a huge size of people,
Right.
and if they start demanding that the government should resign, the Prime Minister should resign, and there should be new elections, I believe if such practice is allowed to continue, then every government, whichever will come, elected government,
Will
the
face
people,
such a thing.
of course.
Yeah.
I believe that there should be some end to such practice
Okay.
and some restrictions, legal restrictions imposed that such gatherings should not allow to remain there for such a long time, where the whole activity of the people and the whole order of the day is totally disturbed. So I believe that another important aspect of the matter is
Are you suggesting some legal measures here?
legal measures. I believe that the superior courts have already passed judgments and orders in such like situations.
Yeah.
Like the Lahore High Court also passed a judgment in which they set some parameters that how the people could gather and should lodge protest.
Right.
But it should not disturb the day order of the day, and the people should not disturb. And the same like judgment was also passed by the Honorable Islamabad High Court. I believe if those judgments are truly implemented, the fundamental rights of the people shall also be continued, and the public order will also not be disturbed.
Right.
So, and the prime responsibility is of the district administration also, because whenever someone applies for such like sitting or demonstration, they should sit with them and they should evolve a code of conduct and certain parameters that for how many days you are allowed to sit there to lodge your protest. I think there were some deficiencies in that context also, I believe.
That is an important question. And let me go back to Ghazi Ahamed Akbar Sahab. Your take on this issue? I mean, the government has to come up with some kind of framework to solve these issues. For example, there could have been a great opportunity to make money as well. I mean, you could have dedicated an arena. Anybody can come, protest there, hire it, rent it, right? And then you make money and let them go. But who's going to negotiate? How to make sure that nobody tomorrow comes to Islamabad, A, seizes control or makes life difficult, B, also casts aspersions on the government's legitimacy.
Very good, sir. This is a question that has been, basically I've been asking myself also in the past few days. And when Shah Khawar Sahab was speaking, I was almost thinking to interrupt him and ask him the parameters that were given after the, the judgment of the Faizabad sit-in and the one given by the Lahore High Court. Because those parameters are basically the guiding, the guidelines for the future or the current dharna also.
The parameters your party actually challenged in the court.
Yes. When we were in the dharna at that time.
Yeah, but
yes,
later on actually.
You're right. It's exactly like that.
Yeah.
But with those parameters, I would again like you to go back to Shah Khawar Sahab and ask him what those parameters are, just to enlighten all of us also, so we could know the legal side of it.
So Shah Khawar Sahab, he is going to question you now. So,
the parameters are very obvious. I believe if it does not need any judgment of the court itself. But the Constitution speaks itself.
Right.
Whenever there are guaranteed the fundamental rights to the citizens, at the same time there are some legal restrictions also imposed, because an individual or group of individuals cannot be allowed to create a law and order situation or disturbance in the day-to-day affairs of the people or the government. So this is the responsibility of even political parties, that they must demonstrate, they must lodge their protest, they must assemble. But I believe that there are certain areas which should not be criticized publicly. This is, I believe, of the vital importance. And the type of speeches which are being displayed or delivered, I believe that they should be careful enough that, they must oppose, this is their fundamental right, this is their political right, that they may criticize the policies of the government, even they can even say against the election process.
Right, as they have been saying it.
As they have been saying. Yeah. But I believe that there must be some limits to it, and publicly they must not, and the speakers, they must not discuss those things which are even protected by the Constitution, that the sensitive organizations and the even judiciary must not be ridiculed and not be undermined.
That is a very significant point. But the humble summation is, while the courts are there to interpret the law and they do their job, it is primarily the job of the parliament to build consensus and to come up with the laws that might provide some kind of framework to resolve these issues. That is a concern, but since I have asked you before, let me ask you again about true motives of Maulana, because there was one very interesting aspect that probably many people have missed. He was talking about the seminaries being regulated while Beacon House and other schools are not being regulated, right? It was whataboutism, but it seems that he might be creating some kind of pushback against the reform of the madrasas or regulation. Do you think it might be the real cause?
Yes, Farooq bhai, you are absolutely right. These are the hidden motives. Now, since we have come to that point, let me just explain you on that. I believe the first hidden motive is that the government was planning to go for the reforms in the madrasas.
Okay.
And that would itself take a lot of control from the seminary heads as far as the financial control is concerned. And then the funding part is also being regularized, and that would itself impact the whole madrasa system very badly. And then that would at the same time bring these madrasas into the mainstream line also. Then the other hidden motive that I see is, behind every case there's a face. So we have to see who is gaining. So we have to see who is actually gaining out of this dharna.
Okay.
It's not the Pakistani government gaining out of
Okay.
it. It's not the residents of Islamabad gaining out of it. It's neither Maulana gaining out of it for time being.
Okay.
So basically it's someone who is against the national interests of Pakistan.
Okay.
When Kashmir was on the highest echelon, it was being discussed everywhere. Our media was focused on Kashmir. Our government was focused on Kashmir. Prime Minister on every forum was focusing on Kashmir. Now everything has bent towards the dharna.
Excuse me, Ghazi Sahab, just to clarify, are you accusing Maulana of treason?
Not exactly. But if you are playing in the hands of someone who is against Pakistan, if you call it treason, then yes, it is.
Right. So can we actually build this case by providing some evidence? It is important. I say this because 5 years ago, similar kind of accusations were made against other parties, and we had to question them as well, right? But here's the question for you, Sheikh Saab, about madrasa reforms. I mean, Maulana actually made a point of bringing up this issue repeatedly. Can it be one of the reasons why he's here?
Definitely, it is one of the reasons. There were two basic things happen in the society, that society as a whole, they are gradually going to withdraw their moral and other kind of support for this seminary system.
Who was going to withdraw that?
The society. The society
Why
is
would they?
gradually, because they are not agree to the narrative being built, the ideology being taught to the students. So they have a reservations.
But
there is a trust deficit now being emerged.
But Sheikh Sahab, with due respect, it is one of the best philanthropic institutions.
No doubt, no doubt at all. But
I mean, very extreme poor people are taken care of by madaris.
no doubt at all, no doubt. I agree with that. But all those seminaries, they are facing problem, financial difficulties.
Okay.
That was not there in the past, even in the recent past, because of the gradual decreasing support from the local people, from the intellectuals, from the educated
Is
minds.
it only the support of the people, or is it National Action Plan or FATF?
No, not national action. Actually, the problem is the society is evaluating these seminaries from different faces.
Okay.
The contribution these seminaries are doing. Much has been talked, much has been discussed about the outcome and the utility of these seminaries to the society. So it's a public mindset. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. I'm saying there is a strong thinking within the society that why we are helping and supporting these seminaries. At least there should have to be a positive contribution towards society.
So Maulana seeks to reverse it.
Actually, he feels that the madrasa reform process is to eliminate his support from the society.
Okay.
So that's why he's being threatened.
So he is here
He's
to
here
reverse that.
to reverse or at least stop for time being this madrasa reform system.
Right, that is quite interesting. Shakhabar Sahab, every time, sir, you appear in this program, I do actually bring up the question of consensus building. The national dialogue that was recommended by the Chief Justice of Pakistan, that was recommended by the former chairman of Senate as well, and you have pointed out as well. But Maulana actually took to the podium and said that there should be a new, agreement between inside the society. Social, yeah. So that is quite interesting. Do you think that that should be the case? Because every time we touch anything, we feel that a lot of work needs to be done.
I don't think that what he actually means when he talks about the establishment or introduction of the new social contract. Yeah. Because new social contract is already there in the shape of the Constitution of Pakistan,
that 1973. He keeps on mentioning.
Yes, of course. And I believe he also does not say anything about the constitution. But the one point which you highlighted, that was of a very, very vital importance. You quoted the statement made by the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan when the former Chief Justice was going to retire and there was a full court reference in the Supreme Court. He gave a very good concept, and he demanded and suggested that there should be a broad-based dialogues between the institutions. And he suggested that this is the office of the President of Pakistan, which is an impartial and non-political office. He should initiate a dialogue between the institutions, between the legislature, between the judiciary, executive, and he also, I believe, pointed out towards the other important sensitive forces. I will very candidly say intelligence agency and the armed forces. So that there should be a consensus, there should be some parameters set that what is the domain of the executive and how they are going to work together without interfering into the domains of other.
Absolutely, that is important. But when we talk about the clergy or the clerics, right, we are talking about seminaries. There too, are they going to be a stakeholder in such a negotiation as well?
Of course they are also, because if you talk about the parliament, there is quite representation of the religious parties also. They are political parties. Even JUI is a political party which is following in few parts of the country, and they secure seats from there.
But
so
anybody who gets elected is going to
I think that the clerics should not be considered as an institution with which a dialogue should be initiated. Like I pointed out, the institutions which are the main pillars of the state, the judiciary, executive, and the parliament, and the armed forces also. And I believe
are they a separate pillar?
No,
The
they are armed forces are basically under the command and control of the federal government as per the mandate of the.
They are part of the executive.
You cannot say a stricto sensu the executive. That is basically a force, a service, which is under the command and control of the federal government. But since the role of armed forces is very much there in present also and in the past also, because the armed forces have the perspective of the development of the country in the security perspective. So I will not say that they have some hidden agendas or political motives, but they are also a very important component of the society.
And there's no harm in getting their sense as well.
So, and the another objective of the suggestion made by the Chief Justice was also that there are few things which could be discussed directly while in presence of all the representatives of these institutions, because the judiciary normally they do not interact with the parliament or even the executive. But the office of president is an impartial office, and they can go and attend any meeting or any arrangement which is initiated by the President of Pakistan. And I believe that still there is a need of such dialogue between the institutions, so that the Constitution of Pakistan itself provides a mechanism of the working relationship between inter se the institutions, but they are not supposed to interfere into the domain of the other.
And so, media? Should media be engaged?
Media, I believe, if you talk about the executive or the legislature, the media is also covered in that, because media is also regulated by a regulatory authority. So directly.
But media owners are separate entity, and media practitioners are separate entity as well.
Of course.
Let me go back to Qazi Sahab, because it is a very good idea. When Chairman Senate also suggested this, we had a vacuum, because when we talk about these grand ideas, they are great, but somebody then has to parse the information. Then they have to work out the details. I mean, President's office is important, and it should be actually playing the role. But whom to actually include in the dialogue, where to meet, which building to use, right? Somebody has to work out these details. Is it not executive's job to do it?
This would actually come out after a lot of debate, because it's an idea.
After 10 years, 15 years?
No, we have to do it, because if we want to create synergies and if we want Pakistan to grow, then this has to be done. I, as a political worker, strongly endorse this idea. And yes, the most impartial office in the whole setup is the President's office. So basically, the President's office has to initiate this. And I differ a bit on this, because I believe that all the stakeholders, when you said media, I say the clergy also, then the institutions that we talked of, and then we have to decide one thing.
Can I work as the spoiler here, sir?
Yes.
With your permission? Which sect do you want to include in that? And when you are going to talk about media, which groups?
This is what the President office has to decide.
Okay.
What it has.
The President
they
office
have to decide.
doesn't have the kind of firepower to do it.
See, even today, if a meeting is called by someone who is responsible for a particular area, so that particular person, that particular authority has to decide who are the stakeholders.
Okay.
So the President office exactly knows who are the stakeholders of Pakistan.
And where should they commune to interact?
And yes, I'm coming to that. And then we have to decide one thing before this whole process starts in, that there's no sacred cow in Pakistan.
Okay. Right.
So everyone has to come on one page.
Right.
Pakistan should be the ultimate motive. They have to sit on one table. All the stakeholders have to be there, be it in the President's office, just the way you were saying, which building it has to be used. I believe then the most impartial building is President's office.
Okay, I was trying to visualize another very politicized building called Convention Center. But then the problem is that I was trying to visualize the military brass sitting there as well, and the other forces. It becomes very difficult to visualize it, right?
I think that the challenge is not giving this idea. The challenge is not, basically implementing this idea. The challenge is basically gathering all the stakeholders and convincing them and letting them know that there's no sacred cow in Pakistan, and to bring everyone on the same table. Okay. So that's a bigger challenge. And so once everybody is on the same table, I'm sure things would start shaping up. Today if Maulana Sahib stands on the container and he talks about certain institutions, see, I believe this is not good.
Okay.
This is not good yesterday, and it's not good today.
No,
and
but
it's
he
not
withdrew
going to be good
his
tomorrow.
statement.
Yeah.
He
Now,
walked away from that position.
When it comes to elections, all the political parties had a consensus that army has to be called in. They will be on every polling station.
And they wrote the laws.
Yes. And
there was a lot of confusion because
Maulana himself was demanding to
implement that.
And then, Farooq bhai, the irony is that Maulana Kafayatullah Sahib ends up making Vicky as the cousin of Jemima Goldsmith.
I heard that.
Okay, no, that's Maulana Kafayatullah Sahib. Now let's talk of Maulana Fazlur Rahman Sahib. He was saying that 95 of the polling agents have not signed the results.
Yeah, that is not true.
Oh, this is absolute, absurd.
95% is
this is, I mean,
impossible.
Yeah,
It can't happen. Then you wouldn't have.
You have every right to stand on the container and give your point of view, speak against the system, give your grievances. But you cannot lie. You cannot just come up with blatant lies.
I have to go to Sheikh Sahib. Sheikh Sahib, I know that you are going to comment, and please do. Let me add to it the element, the component that I highlighted earlier. Your and my responsibility. We are workers of media. We are media practitioners. If media were doing its job properly, we could perhaps chronicle all these debates and work out thrash out some kind of intellectual content that could have been contributing to national interest, building national consensus. Do you think that is a possibility?
Not now. We are not much mature until now, because we supposed to be very much.
We are people in 40s, 50s. When do people get mature?
No, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about the institution. Okay. Institution of media in Pakistan is not that much mature. I'm 55, but still I can say.
I can give you 3 or 4 papers' names who have been there since Pakistan's birth.
Yes, maturity means that they should understand the severity of the crisis and how they could help to evolve a consensus, to mature the society. Taking, for example, we were talking about this Maulana's allegation. Just today, Maulana, in his speech, he made 4 lies. He lied about Kartarpur, he lied about accountability, he lied about the lawyers, Shaukat Aziz, Faiz Siddiqui. And he lied about the...
Can you correct your statement and say that he was inaccurate rather than saying that he was lying?
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm
Please do it,
very harsh
because he's
about
not
that.
here.
Or you can say blatant lies.
No. With due respect, they are not here. So I don't want to actually say something.
Okay, I can soften my stance on this,
Yeah.
but they are not factually correct.
Yeah.
These 4 things, and I pointed it out. I was taking notes because I wanted to discuss these issues, that this is another proof that we are not much matured, that even on the stage, at this much big gathering, our leaders are unable to tell the truth. And what happened? The media, during the speech and even after the speech, nobody touched this topic. Yeah, this is not factually correct.
Okay, another very important thing that seems to be happening in past 4 or 5 days. It seems that media is once again making itself a story. Do you think it should be the case? Once again, the stories of or impression of victimhood, somehow somebody is right, somebody is being violated, stuff like that.
You are right. Unfortunately, you are right.
Yeah.
Because we always need something, either it's right or wrong, either whether it suits society and your country or not, whether it is against the national narrative or not. They need something to attract the audience, to attract the viewers.
Right.
So this is what they are doing, and we are not yet mature yet.
Right.
Let me accept it live on this PTV.
Right. Let me go to Shakhawat Sahab. Sir, since we are talking about various bylaws and frameworks, the legal, framework that covers elections is revised every 4 years, 5 years. Whenever some new government comes, they revisit it again. Do you think that the structure as it stands today needs some correction? Because on one side I see Maulana protesting, on the other the very same opposition not helping the government in finding the 2 members of the Election Commission of Pakistan.
Yes, this is very important. There must be some solid and composite arrangement where it is ensured that the elections, general elections, or even the local bodies elections are held in a free, transparent and impartial manner. And for that, the Election Commission has to be more empowered and made more independent. This is unfortunate that the composition of the Election Commission of Pakistan is not complete. And it has been observed by the Honorable Islamabad High Court in the case when this matter was placed before it. They observed that prima facie, the Election Commission of Pakistan has become dysfunctional due to the non-completion of its full composition.
Right.
And Election Commission, I believe, has the prime responsibility, because whenever there are general elections and the process of general election starts, I believe apart from the caretaker government, the most executive powers vest in the Election Commission of Pakistan. And it is the Election Commission of Pakistan which must ensure that no finger is pointed out on its transparency or its impartiality. And they have ample powers, even during...
But no matter, sir, how many times you reform the Election Commission or the laws or bylaws, somebody ends up actually pointing fingers. What does it mean? People need to reform or the laws need to reform?
I tell you one thing very important, because in some areas where there are more complaints, what the Election Commission can do.
Right.
We hear so many complaints in the election process of Balochistan.
Right.
Why the member from the Balochistan representing Election Commission of Pakistan, why he doesn't sit in the Quetta during whole of the elections and he visits all the divisional headquarters, watch and check the arrangements, and because they have to associate the law enforcing agencies for their aid. Even army is called by the Election Commission or even the caretaker governments. Once there was an occasion that usually the returning officers are from the judiciary.
Right.
But during the tenure of Mr. Iftikhar Muhammad Chaudhry, he was Chief Justice of Pakistan, since there was a lot of criticism on the ROs, on the returning officers, he declined the request of the Election Commission of Pakistan that we will not spare our judicial officers to be the returning officers or the assistant returning officers. And the elections were carried out by the people of the local administration and civilian
Yeah,
administration.
school teachers and all,
So
right?
what I believe is that the maximum responsibility lies on the shoulders of the Election Commission of Pakistan. It must introduce such mechanisms and such methods where the corrupt practices during the election process are guided to, which is also mandated by the Constitution of Pakistan on the Election Commission of Pakistan.
Right, sir.
And I believe that we should give more powers and autonomy to the Election Commission of Pakistan.
That is important, sir, but somehow, no matter what we do, it ends up compromising more rather than solving more problems. Qazi Sahab, I'm told that we are left with 1 or 2 minutes. So if you want to give your conclusion, please quickly do so.
I believe we have a parliamentary committee
Right.
for election reforms.
It
And,
doesn't seem to be meeting often.
Yeah, that's what I was about to come. So that was most probably formed in the aftermath of 2014 dharnas. And once the dharna people left the venue, the parliamentary committee stopped doing meetings.
Right.
Basically, and now the government has offered the Maulana that they are going to revamp the whole parliamentary committee as per his, thing. But the end thing is that I believe that parliamentary committee should be given targets and deadlines.
Right.
That by this and this time, you have to formulate these policies.
Or what?
With a consensus.
No, but or what? If you don't do it, what happens?
Then every time after election, someone is going to come to Islamabad and say the elections were not fair.
Yeah, but when it comes to executive and the legislature and implementation of laws, usually we say such things, right? But we don't seem to have the kind of mechanism to enforce some kind of penalty.
I believe,
That is
Farooq bhai, the sort of evolution that we have been going through in the past 10, 15 years, the
Right.
political evolution,
it might be
if we
evolution.
are able to make a framework, and if we are going to give it to the election commission, I am sure the executive is going to implement it.
It might be evolution or it might be revolution, as in revolving around the same point. But we have to still keep on looking. Sheikh Sahab, very quickly.
Very
if you
quick
want to-
comment. According to my information, electoral reform is going to be a part of the agreement between Maulana and the government.
Right. Shah Khabar Sahab.
I think if it happens, I think this will be the most positive aspect of this dharna.
Right.
So
Let us hope that
basically, that is the main, golden hand that we are giving the.
right, absolutely. But let us hope in coming days we see further contacts between the protesters and the government and some kind of resolution as well. Qazi Sahab, thank you very much for your time. Sheikh Sahab, thank you very much. Shah Khabar Sahab, always a great pleasure having you in the show. Viewers, you have listened to our discussants, our panelists. One important thing that I have to say, since we were trying to put everybody on the mat, let me put my own profession on the mat there, out there as well. A lot of us, the media men, seem to act like shamans rather than journalists. And that actually undercuts the value of our profession. And when somebody says that, hey, come on, do some job as well, do justice to your job, then what happens? Usually we end up calling ourselves victims or making ourselves the news. It is important that media also looks into the mirror, otherwise things will keep on happening the way they have been for past 72 years. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.